Chapter 16, verse 1. One day Korah, son of Izhar, a descendant of Kohath, son of Levi, conspired with Dathan and Abiram, son of Eliab, and On, son of Pelet, from the tribe of Reuben. Verse 2. They incited rebellion against Moses, along with 250 other leaders of the community, all prominent members of the assembly. Verse 3. They united against Moses and Aaron and said, "You have gone too far. The whole community of Israel has been set apart by the Lord, and he is with us, with all of us. What right do you have to act as though you are greater than the rest of the lost people?" Verse 4. When Moses heard what they were saying, he fell face down on the ground. Verse 5. Then he said to Korah and his followers, "Tomorrow morning the Lord will show us who belongs to him and who is holy. The Lord will allow only those whom he selects to enter his own presence." Verse 6. Korah, you and your followers must prepare your incense burner. Verse 9. Light fire in them tomorrow and burn incense before the Lord. Then we will see whom the Lord chooses as his holy one. You Levites are the ones who have gone too far. Verse 8. Then Moses spoke again to Korah. Now listen, you Levites. Verse 9. Does it seem insignificant to you that the God of Israel has chosen you from among all the community of Israel to be near him so you can serve him in the Lord's tabernacle and stand before the people to minister to them? Verse 10. Korah, he has already given his special ministry to you and your fellow Levites. Are you now demanding the priesthood as well? Verse 11. The Lord is the one you and your followers are really revolting against. For who is Aaron that you are complaining about him? Verse 12. Then Moses summoned Dathan and Abiram, the son of Eliab. But they replied, "We refuse to come before you." Verse 13. Isn't it enough that you brought us out of Egypt, a land flowing with milk and honey, to kill us here in the wilderness, and that you now treat us like your subjects? Verse 14. What's more, you haven't brought us into another land flowing with milk and honey. You haven't given us a new homeland with fields and vineyards. Are you trying to fool these men? We will not come. Verse 15. Then Moses became very angry and said to the Lord, "Do not accept their grain offerings. I have not taken so much as a donkey from them, and I have never hurt a single one of them." Verse 16. And Moses said to Korah, "You and all your fellow followers must come here tomorrow and present yourself before the Lord. Aaron will also be here." Verse 17. You and each of your 250 followers must prepare an incense burner and put incense on it, so you can all present them before the Lord. Aaron will also bring his incense burner. Verse 18. So each of these men prepared an incense burner, lit the fire, and placed incense on it. Then they all stood at the entrance of the tabernacle with Moses and Aaron. Verse 19. Meanwhile, Korah had stirred up the entire community against Moses and Aaron, and they all gathered at the tabernacle entrance. Then the glorious presence of the Lord appeared to the whole community. Verse 20. And the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, verse 21, "Get away from all these people, so that I may instantly destroy them." Verse 22. But Moses and Aaron fell face down on the ground. "Oh God," they pleaded, "you are the God who gives breath to all creatures. Must you be angry with all the people when only one man sins?" Verse 23. And the Lord said to Moses, verse 24, "Then tell all the people to get away from the tent of Korah, Dathan and Abiram." Verse 25. So Moses got up and rushed over to the tent of Dathan and Abiram, followed by the elders of Israel. Verse 26. "Quick," he told the people, "get away from the tent of these wicked men, and don't touch anything that belongs to them. If you do, you will be destroyed by their sins." Verse 27. So all the people stood back from the tent of Korah, Dathan and Abiram. Then Dathan and Abiram came out and stood at the entrance of their tent, together with their wives and children and little ones. Verse 28. And Moses said, "This is how you will know that the Lord has sent me to do all these things that I have done, for I have not done them on my own." Verse 29. If these men die natural death, or if nothing unusual happens, then the Lord has not sent me. Verse 30. But if the Lord does something entirely new, and the ground opens its mouth and swallows them, and all their belongings, and they go down alive into the grave, then you will know that these men have shown contempt for the Lord. Verse 31. He had hardly finished speaking the words when the ground suddenly split open beneath them. Verse 32. The earth opened its mouth and swallowed the men, along with their household and all their followers who were standing with them, and everything they owned. Verse 33. So they went down alive into the grave, along with all their belongings. The earth closed over them, and they all vanished from among the people of Israel. Verse 34. All the people around them fled when they heard their screams. The earth will swallow us too, they cried. Verse 35. Then fire blazed forth from the Lord and burned up the 250 men who were offering incense. Verse 36. And the Lord said to Moses, verse 37, Tell Eleazar, son of Aaron, the priest, to pull all the incense burner from the fire, for they are holy. Also tell him to scatter the burning coals. Verse 38. Take the incense burner of these men who have sinned at the cost of their lives, and hammer the metal into a thin sheet to overlay the altar. Since these burners were used in the Lord's presence, they have become holy. Let them serve as a warning to the people of Israel. Verse 39. So Eleazar the priest collected the 250 bronze incense burners that had been used by the men who died in the fire, and the bronze was hammered into a thin sheet to overlay the altar. Verse 40. This will warn the Israelites that no unauthorized person, no one who was not a descendant of Aaron, should ever enter the Lord's presence to burn incense. If anyone did, the same thing will happen to him as happened to Korah and his followers. So the Lord's instructions to Moses were carried out. Verse 41. But the very next morning, the whole community of Israel began muttering again against Moses and Aaron, saying, You have killed the Lord's people. Verse 42. As the community gathered to protest against Moses and Aaron, they turned toward the tabernacle and saw that the cloud had covered it, and the glorious presence of the Lord appeared. Verse 43. Moses and Aaron came and stood in front of the tabernacle. Verse 44. And the Lord said to Moses, verse 45, Get away from these people so I can instantly destroy them. But Moses and Aaron fell face down on the ground. Verse 46. And Moses said to Aaron, Quick, take an incense burner and place burning coal on it from the altar. Lay incense on it and carry it out among the people to purify them and make them right with the Lord. The Lord's anger is blazing against them. The plague has already begun. Verse 47. Aaron did as Moses told him and ran out among the people. The plague has already begun to strike down the people, but Aaron burned the incense and purified the people. Verse 48. He stood between the dead and the living, and the plague stopped. Verse 9. But 14,700 people died in the plague, in addition to those who had died in the affair involving Korah. Verse 50. Then, because the plague had stopped, Aaron returned to Moses at the entrance of the tabernacle. Amen.